can't remember it. And she's always so disappointed because I can't remember that exact detail. Most of the time I don't remember that exact detail. But more importantly, I remember a very happy childhood filled with lots of great trips, adventures, experiences, and especially unconditional love. I remember the overall good and happiness, but not so many of the individual details. Mom is very supportive. She's there for me anytime and all the time. She's always willing to listen, and she's always very interested. She offers suggestions and help if you ask, but is careful not to tell you what to do. She's a problem solver, and she always tries to help if there's any way possible. Often Mom is just the right comfort and support that I need at the right time. Now, back to the unconditional love. I was an awful teenager. I was very difficult. It was very difficult to be the mom of a teenager like me. And somehow she loved me right through it. That makes her an amazing person. One time I broke a very special long neck wine bottle.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
From Italy. I was running through the living room and hit the bottle that was sitting on the floor in the corner. And yes, it was a large enough bottle that it sat on the floor. You know, not a little bottle, but a big bottle. Yes, I broke it and it went everywhere. And yes, it was red wine.
Oh, no.
All over the living room. And I have not forgotten that she didn't get mad. It was so nice. It felt great to be forgiven, and it helps me to forgive other people. And there was the time when she was washing dishes and I was drying. A sharp knife slipped out of my hand and hit her foot and hit a vein in the top of her foot, and blood squirted out like a geyser. These are the things I remember. And she calmly applied pressure to her foot and said, "Run, get Dad, run, get Dad." And I don't think she holds that against me either. She's not a complainer. She's very efficient, generous, as we all know how generous she is. She's very friendly and interesting. And oh yeah, she has a high tolerance for pain. She really does. I know that I'm probably forgetting so many of the great things about my mom. She's an amazing person, and I consider it a compliment if anyone ever mentions that I have some of her traits. I can only hope to be like her. But I don't want you to think that she's perfect, because I've said all these nice things, because she's not perfect.
Oh.
Right. Do we have enough time?
She wears an 8.5 shoe, and I wear a 7.5 shoe. And I cannot wear all her fabulous shoes. Okay, do you want to talk about Dad? Sure. Okay. Okay, Dad, I said, how in the world did he get to be the best dad in the world when his own dad died when he was 14? He may have just learned quickly, or maybe it was just his great instincts. He always has time for us, no matter how busy he is at the time, whatever he has to do, we always take priority. And I know that I matter to Dad. He always takes time for his grandchildren too. He spent hours with Jessie when he was little, digging to China, or taking Olivia to the zoo, or Marcus to the car museum. He's always interested in what they're interested in. And we all know that he's a big kid too. One time the kids were getting in the little red wagon and riding down our backyard hill in Hickory. Next thing I know, we look out there and Dad folding himself in the little red wagon, going down the hill. It was hilarious.
Did we beat? I think we will.
And when my kids were little, they would ask me really hard questions that I often couldn't answer. So what I would answer to them then, I learned to say, "Let's ask Grandpa." And so we would keep a list of questions. Jessie would ask me the hardest, and Olivia too, the hardest questions. Why is this truck built this way? Or just recently, how many feet does it take to stop an airplane, a Bonanza, just yesterday? And so I'd say, let's ask Grandpa. And we'd keep a list, of all the things that we needed to ask Grandpa the next time we saw him. And I don't think there were any questions that Grandpa couldn't answer. He's so smart and humble about it as well. He's a great listener, as Jay and I can attest. Once again, not telling us what to do, but listening and offering insight from his own experience. It always makes me feel better to talk it over with Dad. Okay, how many people in this room did Dad teach to drive?
What was the question?
So it's Lynn, Kathy.
Lynn, not you?
Not you?
I was already in college. Yeah.
Okay. Kathy, Susan,
But he
Van,
rescued me when I broke down one time.
me, Jesse, Marcus, and Olivia. I know that he taught to drive.
Yeah.
And Van. He takes time for so many of us, and he has a level head, and I couldn't have taught all those people to drive. Somehow Dad is the only person that can tell the same story over and over, and you don't mind. It's endearing and somehow comforting to hear about his corn theory. Okay, or his warthog joke. And if you haven't heard it, I'm sure he'll tell you. I don't know how he can get away with it, but we love Dad's stories. When I was thinking about my life path, and beginning with what I was going to study in college, I knew that I could go in any direction I chose because Dad said I could be anything I wanted to be. He really believed that. And since I know how smart he is, I believed him wholeheartedly. He had such confidence in me and still does. Now, just like Mom, Dad isn't perfect.
Oh.
So one time Mom said to Dad, "You have on one blue sock and one black sock." And Dad looked down and said, "Oh, I have another pair just like it." So people all over the world, and I mean all over the world, we can be anywhere, people know Mom and Dad. They adore my parents. And that speaks volume about the terrific people that they are. And I'm the luckiest daughter in the world to have them as my mom and dad. I love them so much.
I'm just going to say a few comments, some stories primarily. I think, Mom, I think your background, the Jackson family, you were married into the Crotts family in a very difficult time. You married Dad in Illinois. You came south with no connections, no family. You were the outsider, and you became a Southern lady and became a great mom to all of us. I'd like to tell a few stories about Dad. Dad was born in 1931, in the depths of the recession. And for all of us that have no concept of what the Depression was really like, this recession that we just went through 2 years ago was a fraction of the economic woe that the country was going through. Some of you know that. Most of us don't. We don't realize that. Dad was the second child of a family. His father was already in his late 50s at the time, I believe. His sister was 12 years older than him. So his sister was already far beyond him, and when he was a teenager, she was already in college and already married, I believe. So he really was almost like an only child. Very poor. His father died during World War II when he was, I think, 13 or 14? 14. So he really had a pretty tough childhood. One story he tells is that he slept upstairs in 2112 Walltown Street, just a wooden building with no insulation. He slept upstairs, and during one winter morning, he had a glass of water, and the water was frozen in the morning. That's how cold his room was at night. He'd get up and stoke the coal fire or whatever the fire in the morning. Yeah, he had many jobs. He was the first Crotts actually to go to college. So he actually sent a letter. Sent a letter to his relatives asking for money to pay for college. So it was a big deal for somebody in the Crotts family. Now the Jackson family is very well educated, but the Crotts family is a little bit different. His grandfather was one of 17 brothers and sisters. You can believe that. So about half of Forsyth and Yadkin and Davie County are relatives. So, but he's one of the younger of that group. His dad was fairly old when he was born. So he was pretty well had a very modest childhood. The corn story that Laura alluded to was quite unique. When he was a little kid, he thought how inefficient it was to serve multiple food items for a meal. He was always thinking. And he thought, well, let's just have one meal of one food. So his first food was going to be corn. So his mom cooked him a big old plate of corn, and he ate, a quart of corn for his meal that night. He said it was 2 years before he could eat corn again. 20 years. So that theory didn't work out very well. Some of the things that he's done is quite unique. He went to NC State, got a mechanical engineering degree. Then he went to the Air Force, Chanute Air Force Base in Illinois. That was north of Champaign. And I think he attended the Methodist Singles Group, and that's where these two met in the 50s. This was the early 50s. 2 years in the Air Force. During that time, he also got a master's degree at the University of Illinois in mechanical engineering. And while he was at the university, he started our company, Crotts and Saunders. So he actually started the company while he was in Illinois. He and his partner, Charlie Saunders, this is 1956, they formed the company. You were 25, 24? 24 years old, he started Crotts and Saunders. So we're celebrating our 55th year this year. So it's quite unique for somebody that young to start a company. One story they tell about the depths of the economic curves that we all go through was in the early 60s. He came home from work one day, and they had a $7 payment on their Sears refrigerator that was due. They got the bill, $7, and they looked at their bank account, and they had not $7. So they had no money to pay for their refrigerator. They opened the next envelope, and they had a $12 refund on their taxes or something like that. So they were able to pay their refrigerator. So these folks made it from pretty basic times, and they've done very well. I joined the company in 1982, and my father and I are now partners in the business. We've been partners since 1995. Mark has had quite a few achievements. If I could brag a little bit about him, probably any organization that he served in, he rose to the very top. I think the first one that he was very active in was SME. That's Society of Manufacturing Engineers. That's a worldwide organization of 40,000 members. He actually started most of the chapters in the Southeast. He served as the chapter chairman, rose through various ranks, and actually served as international president about 10 years ago, which was almost a full-time job. He's very active in Rotary. He served as the Rotary District Governor, which is the highest regional honor you can achieve. He's also achieved the highest honor in our industry, which is the AMTDA, our trade association. He was chairman of that association about 20 years ago. So he's been quite an accomplished individual. He's a professional engineer. I think you're a registered land surveyor. Is that correct?
No, not a surveyor, just an engineer.
Just an engineer, okay. He's a certified manufacturing engineer. I believe you have your professional pilot's license, commercial rating. So he's done quite a few things. And Laura alluded to the fact of how unique he is. And as I grow up and as I get older, I realize how unique he is. When I was a little kid, we would make 8mm movies, William Tell movies, where we'd have an apple on our head and the arrow. He did all that great stuff, and I thought that was normal. When we were building the office, we would go over and mow the grass. We'd ride the lawnmower about 2 miles through the town. He had a little riding lawnmower, and he would ride down the street, and I'd ride on my bike, and we'd ride and cut the grass before we built our building. I used to carry a baseball bat because there were field rats in the yard. And as he would get the yard smaller and smaller and smaller, you'd yell and point. I'd go run and kill the rat. I was about 10 years old. That was great fun. That was great fun.
Yeah.
We built the house. He surveyed the property, and we'd go over every Saturday and we'd survey, and I would hold the sextant and all that good stuff. And man, I hated that. That was tough back then, but it was a very interesting time. It's quite unique. The industry that we serve is a very small industry, machine tools, and he is actually a very, very well-known individual in that. He's quite a credit to our industry. A story about everybody in the world knows him. I was on a train in Hamburg, Germany, riding by myself, and 2 Americans got on the train. I could tell they're Americans. Very quickly you can recognize Americans from native Germans. And I started speaking to them and started talking about who they were and what they did. And 5 minutes into the conversation, they said, "Are you Mark's son?" They knew him. I was on a train, this is a little compartment in Germany, and they had known him. I mean, it's kind of a neat thing to be the son of Mark Crotts. Let me think, what other story should I tell? Corn story. You've got so many.
The warthog joke.
I don't know that one.
That'll have to tell.
All right then.
But I see him every day at work, and he's quite unique. He's got good perspective. Laura alluded to the fact that he rarely tells me what to do anymore. He always kind of advises, which is kind of a good thing. But usually the advice is the chosen path that we do in our company. So he's been a great inspiration for me. He's been a great dad and a great partner and just a great mentor. Thank you so very much.
She's the eldest.
Collect their thoughts.
We have a discussion. I told Lynn that she was the oldest and she had to go, and she said, yes, I am the eldest. And we've had a discussion. When do you use oldest and when do you use eldest? Anyone in this family knows? We have all these grammarians. Nobody knows? Yeah, we couldn't figure that one out. They decided, Ginger said very diplomatically, I think they're interchangeable.
I didn't say I think, I said they are.
Oh.
Oh.
She declared.
Don't sit there, Mom.
I'm gonna Google it.
That's my business.
We started thinking about Mary first, about Mom, and she did her childhood walking through the campus to Uni High in Illinois. So she was very familiar with everything that was going on in that community. And then when it's time to go to college, she just walked a little bit shorter and stopped off at the college. She didn't have to go through it and then on to her high school. She did live just 2 semesters in the dorm so that she would get the college experience. And I don't know if any of our children had to do that. I think most of them got to go to school and stay there and live there. But there wasn't enough housing funds to afford to send her to live at the campus. She was a camp counselor for many years. So if you're looking outside and there's a particular bird like a stellar jay, and she'll say, oh, well, that's like the so-and-so jay, but it's the stellar jay, and it has this peak and this crest and this whatever. So if you have any questions in the whole woods, trees, flowers, birds arena, yeah, she's the go-to. I must say that none of us really picked that up. Sorry. She was a kindergarten
Spencer
teacher.
knows what a grebe is, don't you?
Oh, no, you forgot. So she was a 26-year veteran teacher. And the year that she started teaching, she worked with a student named Jimmy Brown. She was working at Mount Tabor High School. That was not her area of interest. She was a music teacher, but she ended up doing all the kindergarten years. So this particular year, she was just trying to get settled in Winston, get a job, get going. And she got to choose 2 students from her chorus class to attend a regional competition, I believe it was. And same with me, you can't fill in where I mess up. Just nod. Keep nodding.
This sounds good. This is what we tried to remember it.
Yeah. So Jimmy Brown was one of the students that participated. He always was interested. He was just always attentive, but she never heard him sing. Not a note. But she just decided that he deserved to go to this chorus. So she took him and one other student to this particular chorus event. To this very day, she still has talked to Jimmy Brown's parents, and the mom still says, now Jimmy Brown is a fully all the way grown guy. She said, you just don't know what your selection of Jimmy meant to him and what kind of self-esteem booster it was for Jimmy Brown. And Mom, through the whole class, never heard him sing a note. But yet she recognized the need in him. He was doing the best he could do, and so she rewarded him for that. So we talk about Jimmy Brown a lot in that message.
Did you ever hear him sing, by the way?
Jimmy Brown?
Yeah.
He works with handicapped students at West, and he'll be at the checkout line sometimes with a student. And I said one time I came up and the girl was waiting on me. I said, well, Jimmy Brown. And the girl looked at him and she said, Jimmy? I said, oh, Mr. Brown, Mr. Brown. But he told him, said she was my music teacher. So he's still around.
Yeah, made such a difference to that young man. She has the reputation of being big iron. She was given that name, we think, through a teacher's assistant that she had named Texie. And that's taken her through miscarriages, divorces, the death of parents, breast cancer, all the stuff. We just keep on going.
But you have to explain what pig iron is. Pig iron is the iron ore that is then eventually manufactured into steel, but it's a very, very strong substance. And that's what Texie had said, oh, you're just as strong as pig iron, when she was talking about Mom just being able to do whatever she needed to do and, you know, and get on through. And when I was 17, 18, I was very sick one night, and the next morning I was flying out to New York to live for the summer with my dad, and I was very apprehensive about the whole thing, and I was sick at the time and whatever, and Mom came in to me that night and handed me this little pewter piglet, and she said, you are daughter of pig iron, you are a pewter piglet. And so that was my, you know, strength, get it, you know, you can make it through kind of thing. And then we've laughed about that through the years. So then when Amanda went off to college, she was having a rough time. And so feeling like an Indian woman, I said, you are granddaughter of pig iron, you are daughter of pewter piglet, you can make this through. And we've been trying to come up with a good, appropriate name for Amanda, but we've now started collecting pigs, and we've got several between the two of us that we've collected. And Sam and I went on a trip earlier this year, and we took all these pictures with the pig, and I would send them back via text to her with the pig going everywhere. But she's granddaughter of pig iron, and we're very proud of that.
And I think she passed that on to me, especially when Ken was gone all the time. But my pig iron makes me cry all the time. So even though I'm tough and strong inside, it's just the outside. It's like, oh, I can't talk. I have to do that emotion. I can't quite get over that. But Mom, I feel like, has given me that strength to just go on. And when things get hard and tough, this crying thing I thought I was going to be control. But anyway, thank you for all that pig iron that you have given us.
She reads books every week, and she's got so much interesting knowledge that if you ever get involved in a game of Trivial Pursuit, and I don't know if the young ones do that, that was back many years ago, but no matter what the category, she would be sitting watching us play, and we'd be here at the table, and she'd say, da-da-da-da, and that would be the answer. And then, stop, that's the other team. So no matter what we were doing, she always had the answer. She's very interested in doing things for other people. She has a favorite meatloaf recipe, and those of you that will be enjoying that on Wednesday can vouch for it when you've had it. She hems skirts. She gets stains out of clothing. She cuts up fruit. No matter what it is, she's going to be right there helping all of us. You want to do the weather service?
Where am I? Here. Oh, one of the things that Mom's whole life is filled with service for other people. And she does church choir. She's in the women's group at church. She was a Girl Scout leader for me, I know from brownies and I think not juniors, but then cadets. So she's been a Girl Scout leader forever. She gives blood, and we guessed over 100 pints. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if it's gallons.
It's 39 gallons.
Is it gallons? Oh my gosh,
She
okay.
quit several years ago because
But I gave at the church 6 weeks ago.
6 weeks, okay,
I was the oldest one.
then the apheresis, is that what it's called?
Yes.
The other thing with the platelets and all, she rocks the baby. She's excellent at that when she goes to the hospital, and she does that every week, and she rocks all the premature babies, whether they have little tubes in them or not. Of course, she's singing all her songs, and very loving and all.
And she started doing that when Amanda was 3, and at Brenner Children's Hospital, And we were there for a week with her, and Mom was there and saw what was going on at Brenner's, and she had just retired just prior to that, and she said, "This is something I can do. I can volunteer here and I can make a difference." And so that was in 1993, and she's been going every week since then to take care of these little bitty ones who need somebody to be there and love them when their moms and dads aren't around. So, there's a lot of people that are thankful for that.
We say it's not Christmas until Mary sings "Oh Holy Night." And if any of you have ever been there, I can't at the Christmas service, Mary will sing this "Oh Holy Night." It is just absolutely beautiful. So I don't know that any of you have gotten to hear it like we have, but it's just wonderful. And it's not 4th of July until she sings "God Bless America," and that is excellent. And it's not a summer trip from New York to North Carolina until we all sing "Like Snow White Sailing Ships."
We're going to do that?
Which we did when we were living in New York and driving to North Carolina back in the 60s, because we moved to North Carolina in 71. So prior to that, Mom would come down and visit her sister, and we had a station wagon at one point, and they'd lay the back seats down, and oftentimes the three of us would sort of lay on the back seat part, or sometimes sitting up, but we'd sing to pass the time on the way down there. It's before you had XM radio to keep you entertained.
And you didn't have video players in the car? I know that a lot of you can't imagine what that was like.
So, you wanting to sing that or sing?
Oh, well, the two that we're going to do. "'Twas on the Lonesome Prairie," and we'll do that one first. And if you know it, feel free to join it.
Margo knows it.
Oh,
Yes,
yes.
she does.
On the lonesome prairie,
where nature favors no man, a buffalo and his brother were lying in the sand. Said that buffalo to his brother, "What makes you lie that way?" But that buffalo never said, 'cause that there old buffalo had been dead since way last May.
and that always killed me because I wanted to say "the end." So maybe that's all. Do we have the favorite song? Do we have this one that we're gonna play? You want to start with Carl?
Go, Mom.
No, I think that's it. Yeah. So bottom line is we love our mother very dearly. We're so glad she's in our lives, and that's all we can say. Get about 5 words out. So now we want to talk about Carl, the newest member of our family.
All wise.
Do you want to start on this one?
So, I'm going to start near the end and then circle back. Carl joined our family in officially January of '94, but very, very much at the end of '93. So he's been a part of things for quite a while now, and we're very fortunate to have him in our life. He grew up living on a farm part of that time, and in a very rural type of existence. And the stories he tells about just getting it done and living in that kind of an environment is pretty amazing. He was known as Bud in high school, or growing up. He was in a graduating class of 11 students, in the small little town. And was that in North Dakota? Minnesota at that point. Was a basketball star.
You missed something.
You missed the
I
dream.
often tell people that don't know me very well when we talk about high school, I graduated 10th in my class. There was 11 of us.
We decided we'd let you tell
No,
them.
we don't say that.
We discussed it. So anyway, he joined the Air Force and served, what, 20 years? I'm sorry, 21?
Yeah, a little over 20.
Okay. And was in military, not operations, special operations, special ops?
Well,
What
it was
are they
the
called?
Office of Special Investigation.
Special
Which
investigation.
is like the FBI of the Air Force. I was with him.
And he can't tell much about it because he always says he'd have to kill us then. So there's a lot we don't know. So he served in different places overseas with that. So then, excuse me, Carl had the opportunity, or took the opportunity to go back to college at night. He met his first wife over in Germany and married and had 3 kids. The oldest is Carol, who is just a bit younger than you. So she was 57, I think, and Gary was like 1960, and Adele 62, perhaps 61. And we knew them when we were in high school. We all went to church together, so we knew Carl from those days. But when he was still in the military and had the family, also went back and decided to get his college degree in his 40s, and we're very proud of him for doing that. That's those of us who complained about having to write a paper or take a test when we were 19 or whatever in college. I can't imagine trying to do that and still work full time and have a family. That's an incredible feat. Anyway, Carl has done a lot of things in addition to that. He was in Toastmasters and was a Sunday school teacher for many, many years, and has done a lot with Bible genealogy, still continues to do some of that through the years, and actually has done a lot of genealogy in general of our family and his family, and even like in our town of Clemens where we live, has done some research into the beginnings of that community and the people there. Has done a lot of research in that area through the last 20 years, I guess. So he was, or is, I guess, technically still a member of Mensa, and has has always done a lot with daily jumbles and crossword puzzles and just anything to keep his mind active and challenged and whatnot. And I think he and Mom would give each other a run for their money on the things that they know and what they can just pull out of left field.
Can I interrupt you for just
Please.
a second? I have a comment for the young folks that are either in college or heading off to college. And think about the fact that I was 10th in a class of 11, and that was because I was too lazy to work. I went into college seriously, and I missed the dean's list at graduation by just a point or two, going at night. So it can be done, guys. Those of you that, I went for 7 years at night, 3 nights a week, 4 hours a night. And I worked full time plus mowed lawns on Saturdays and Sundays. So it can all be done, guys. Those of you that are in college, don't quit, don't give up. It can all be done no matter where you come from or where you started.
Good for you. In the last 15 years or so, he's been active with VFW, the Veterans of Foreign Wars in Clemens, was head of the group that goes to funerals for quite a while, and is still active doing that to honor those veterans who have passed away but who served their country so graciously. So he and some of his other fellow folks at the Post dress up in their dress uniforms and go out and present the colors and give a full recognition. And that's whether it's 95-degree heat or freezing cold or rain or whatever, they're out there giving the respect to those who have earned it.
Those guys did 170 funerals last year.
So that's just one of the things that's done to recognize those folks, and we appreciate Carl's service with that. Also at the VFW, they do bingo every Thursday night, and Carl and Mom and Amanda now are all active with that, and they have fun going around and helping with that activity, and the money that's raised with bingo also goes to the college scholarships for the descendants, I guess you'd say,
Members.
family members of the members of that chapter. So this year, Carl has had the most grandchildren, has 6 grandchildren this year that have gotten those scholarships, which is pretty tremendous that that he's working so hard, and like I say, Mom and Amanda helping with that as well, and working so hard to then help so that my kids and yours can take advantage of that, and we appreciate that. One of Carl's favorite sayings, and I've definitely picked up on it and use it myself now, is it's where you're standing when you're looking that makes all the difference. And that's just really important to think that sometimes you have to have a different perspective. If you see something and it doesn't make sense to you, or someone responds a certain way, think about where they're standing, what their perspective is, and try to get a different appreciation of what's happening. It really helps to think about that.
Cool.
Yeah, you got it.
I do. And Carl is always one that will volunteer to participate in any veterans celebrations, the Memorial Day events, any patriotic holidays. And one of the pieces he reads is called That Ragged Old Flag. That also makes me think of the value of the ones that have gone before. You may have heard Johnny Cash record this. I'm not singing it, I'm just reading it. But see if it sounds like what we all need to keep honoring with the folks that we're talking about today. Carl, do you happen to want to read it?
Go ahead.
He does a great job.
Do you want to read it?
Okay. I walked through a county courthouse square. On a park bench, an old man was sitting there. I said, "Your old courthouse is kind of run down." And he said, "No, it'll do for our little town." I said, "Your old flagpole is leaning a little bit. And that's a ragged old flag you've got hanging on it." He said, "Have a seat." And I sat down. "Is this the first time you've been to our little town?" "Well," he said, "I don't like to brag, but we're kind of proud of that ragged old flag. You see, we got a little hole in the flag there when Washington took it across the Delaware. And it got powder burns the night Francis Scott Key sat watching it, writing, 'Oh, say can you see?' And it got a bad rip at New Orleans when Packingham and Jackson took it to the scene. And it almost fell at the Alamo beside the Texas flag, but she waved on through. She got cut with a sword at Chancellorsville. She got cut again at Shiloh Hill. There was Robert E. Lee, Beauregard, and Bragg. The south wind blew hard on that old ragged flag. On Flanders Field in World War I, she got a big hole from a Bertha gun. She turned blood red World War II, and she hung limp and low a time or two. She was in Korea and Vietnam. She went from our ships upon the briny foam. Now, they're about to quit waving her back here at home in our good land. She's been abused. She's been burned, dishonored, denied, and refused. And the government for which she stands is scandalized throughout the land. She's getting threadbare and she's wearing thin. But she's in good shape for the shape she's in because she's been through the fire before. I believe she can take a whole lot more. So we raise her up every morning and we take her down every night. We don't let her touch the ground. We fold her up right. On second thought, I do like to brag, because I'm mighty proud of that ragged old flag. And we're very proud of our first generation. Oh, second, I'm sorry.
Before you leave that, I've got to say this. There are a few of you in here that married into this family, and aren't we a lucky bunch?
Lynn, Kathy, Susan, thank you. That was wonderful. You captured a bunch there. Well, I feel like all of us got to know you four seniors a lot better with all those little tidbits that were shared. We love you and we appreciate you very much, and a little more so tonight. I hope that during the rest of this reunion we have an opportunity to chat with you a little bit about some of what we've heard or hear about tonight, or anything else crosses your mind, because you've got some good things to say, some good things to share with all of us. I hope we have our ears on. Thank you for being with us. We have one more senior here tonight, Mom. We're missing a third of our groups, and he asked us specifically to hold on.
We should have a special night all for herself.
Thank you, Mary. That's great perspective. So, Mom, you're going to be part of all this, but little brother, Monson needs to be here too. He wants to be part of all this as well. Little brother.
Oh, little brother.
Anyway, so you four seniors, thank you so much for being with us. We get to we'll honor our fifth one tomorrow night or another night. Becky can pick the night. Thanks for being flexible with that. As some expected, Becky didn't hear about this till about an hour ago. We weren't going to be able to add Mom to this. The kids hung up at the airport. Kelsey on the way to her first post-graduation job. Anyway, so we love you and we appreciate you, and we'll turn the podium back over to Becky and the rest of us for whatever lies next. Thanks a lot.
Dance party.
Okay, so tomorrow, I had everyone's attention, we have our big reunion games are happening tomorrow, which Brian has done a fantastic job. And the way it's going to work is we're going to meet at a park in Bend. Drake Park, and we'll give you all an address or intersection before you leave. And everybody is going to meet at the park. And then what we're going to do is we're going to split up into our teams, and our activities will begin at that park. And we will finish, and you'll just end up back at your house for lunch. That's round one, is before lunch. Come back to your houses, have lunch, and then round two will begin sometime after lunch. It depends on what time we finish in the morning. We're guessing about 1 o'clock. We'll be ready to head out for round two, and that's going to take place at Fort Rock Park, which is just right down the street. You can walk or ride your bike or drive. So that's round two. In the evening, we are planning on doing a takeout or go to a restaurant, and we're still trying to fine-tune what those plans are. So stay tuned for that, but nobody will be responsible for cooking tomorrow night. Anything else for tomorrow? Yes.
Wear your Jackson shirts.
Yes, wear your reunion shirts tomorrow.
Okay.
And your team band.
So, and the time in the morning is 9:45 at Drake Park in the morning.
Right, don't forget to say 9:45.
What's the drive time between here and there?
15 minutes.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah. 15 minutes.
20 if you're Bill.
15 to 20 minutes.
Let's try to leave our houses at 9:15 to head there. leave your house at 9:15 and head to the park. And you'll probably
Are we in caravan or do you have maps or?
We'll give you maps. Once we get there, maybe we should just say this now.